In many high schools across the United States, it is being added to the curriculum that in order to graduate, students must complete several hours of community service. Depending on the school, they can give students the freedom to choose how and where they want to do community service, but this is not always the case. Many students think that they are not given enough freedom and end up hating their experiences or not enjoying them as much, affecting their ability to volunteer on their own in the future. Students think that given more freedom about how to do their service, they would have enjoyed it more instead of considering it a burden to their schedules. To demonstrate this, I conducted a series of interviews among students to see what their opinions are and how they think that schools should modify their measurements in order for students to have a better experience. So, the first question in my interview was community service a requirement in your high school for graduation?
In the program I was in called Libertas Academy that was based on law, we did have to complete 100 hours of community service throughout all 4 years of high school in order to graduate.
Community service was mandatory in my high school. We were required to do 150 hours.
I'm not sure. Pretty sure it was, but I did other community services, like or hours for other organizations I was involved in. So I think it all came together. So I really didn't know. Probably was.
Second question was, did you enjoy doing community service?
I did enjoy my community service because as an 8th grader, I went to a camp about the program that I was in revolved around law. And in there were camp leaders, and I was one camp leader every year of high school, and it was super fun.
Overall, my community service experience was not pretty enjoyable. However, I did enjoy some of the activities that I did.
I mean, it was alright. Like there were some fun things about it. There were some like meh things about it, but like overall, it was a kind of a good experience.
Next question is, how do you think your community service experience could have been improved?
The camp, the camp itself, in the year I went, I felt like it needed more participation from the students.
I think that this could be improved by letting the students have a little bit more flexibility with the places that they could do community service as well as the amount of hours required.
Probably the distance. Many of the community service opportunities in my district at least was not really near my school. So unless that you have a car, there was like not that much the option to go. So it was that.
The following question is, what did you like the most about your experience?
I really did enjoy helping the coordinators and officers of the program when I was a freshman and sophomore, and being able to improve the camp itself as an officer working hand in hand with the coordinators.
What I liked the most about community service is that I was able to play with little children and dance with them, draw with them, and do several activities.
What do you like the most about your experience? Well, I joined this organization called in Jota Advisory Council of Farmers Ranch City, and I basically saw. Well, they took us to Washington, and there I met the president, which was pretty cool, pretty sweet.
Next question is, what did you like the least?
I think the only thing I disliked about this community service is that it was from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the first week of spring break.
I didn't like that the orphanage where I was doing community service had pretty strict hours, and also that the school wasn't very flexible with the places that we could do community service.
Probably there were, well, maybe the times were like I don't know, off. They were always in the morning or like kind of awkward. So
And then the last question was, is there anything you want school officials to know about how they could make community service more enjoyable for students?
community service is not something that you want to feel as community service. You want to enjoy your time there. This makes it easier when it's mandatory for graduation.
I think that school officials should take into consideration that community service hours sometimes overlap with other responsibilities that students have. And I think it would be more enjoyable if there was a little bit more of flexibility in that area, or also some type of activity that can be done instead of certain amount of community service hours.
Maybe one thing I would like was community service in school because, as I said before, a lot of the community service opportunities were like outside, and unless you had a car, it was like really hard to get there. So that's that. More community service in the school will be nice.
After hearing these testimonies, it is easy to tell that the aspect they enjoyed the most was having the opportunity to engage in activities where they could make use of their abilities. For instance, leading a group or working with children or participating in projects that are exciting for them. Therefore, school officials responsible for community service should consider allowing students to engage in activities that align with their strengths rather than mandating them to serve at a specific location. On the other side, a concern among students was the schedule that they had to follow while doing community service. It was challenging to attend other responsibilities and extracurricular activities with community service requirements. Because of this, officials should consider being more flexible with the number of hours they ask students to complete to allow students more control over when they participate in these activities. Transportation was another issue for students during community service. It was inconvenient for some students to travel to locations far from their homes, and some didn't have easy access to transportation. Therefore, students suggest having more in-school service opportunities or providing easier transportation to make community service more accessible. In addition, students feel that school officials should provide more flexibility regarding where and how community service can be performed. They propose alternative options that are not necessarily based on time but still benefit society, such as donating items to shelters or writing letters to people in jail. Most importantly, students suggest enabling more opportunities to the community service inside the school to eliminate location obstacles and so that they can better manage their time. In conclusion, the feedback from these students highlights the need for school officials to provide flexible and meaningful community service opportunities. This includes allowing students to utilize their strengths, adjusting schedules, providing accessible transportation, and introducing alternative options for community service. By taking these steps, students can engage in community service without compromising their academic, personal, or extracurricular obligations.